It has been so long since we've done this, though, that I don't really remember. Not remember. That's the right word. I'm trying to think of how we're gonna do this.
How so? What do you mean?
Just how it's gonna go.
I mean, well, we're recording, so we can literally start any time.
I mean,
I just have to say the magic words of, you know, welcome back to another episode of Unpopped Corn, your favorite movie podcast, where two dudes watch a movie that one of them's never seen, and then we sit down and talk about it. I'm your host Mitchell, and my co-host on the couch next to me, Nate.
Bing bong.
All right, see, now we're live. Now we're live. See, it wasn't that hard.
It's
Uh,
just like nothing ever happened. We didn't miss 6 months. I don't know what you're talking about.
of course not. No. So how's it been, buddy? Doing good.
Yeah, I went in a vacuum chamber. Vacuum chamber? That's not the right words.
I mean,
That's
I don't know.
the. I don't know. We disappeared for 6 months.
But we're back now.
Yep.
Something that we haven't talked about on the show at all, and I think is kind of important. Nate, what's your favorite movie?
Uh, I see. I struggled to find to say an actual favorite movie because I feel like it's potentially different by like genres. Um, I can't think of a single movie that like overall I'm just like that movie stands out completely for me.
Okay, well then let me ask this then. What is a movie that if it came on TV, you were like, oh, that's on TV, and you would sit there and watch the whole thing?
Top Gun comes up. That comes to mind.
That's a good
Um,
one.
uh, I like Wind River a lot, but like I've only seen it like probably 3 times. Um,
But yeah, the first time you saw it was with me, right?
yep, in Atlanta.
That's what I say. Yeah,
Saw it in
that
theaters,
I think that
and
was the
then
second time I'd seen it.
I really enjoyed it. And then I told my mom about it, and I watched it with her and Sean. And then I think I've seen it one other time since then. But like I really enjoy that movie, but I haven't seen it a bunch. Um,
Yeah, we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. Like you,
Now, what I was gonna say, the movie I've seen the most times is Fast Five. I would not consider that my favorite movie by any means, but there was a period of time where that movie was on like honestly every weekend on USA, and I just would watch it. I've seen Fast Five so many times.
I don't know what a movie that would be like that for me. Um, I get like in terms of my favorite movie, uh, I the easy cop out answer is Empire Strikes Back, but I feel like that's everybody's favorite movie. That's a hard one. If I the I we talked about this a little bit earlier today, and then I had to think about it. For the context of my favorite movie, a movie that I love, uh, and I will always watch when it's on. Not that it comes on a lot, but I'll always watch that it's on. I always seek it out and watch it probably a couple of times a year at least. Is Death Proof. It's a Quentin Tarantino movie that is very like one. I feel like it's one of his smaller projects, but it's basically just a big long car chase, and I love it. I love everything about it. I love how it's shot. It's incredible. So I watch that a good bit. I would say that that's very high on my list of movies that I enjoy watching.
Literally never heard of it.
I didn't think you. I didn't think you would have, but we'll watch it at some point.
Uh,
Um,
Other honorable mentions for me for movies that I really enjoy. Shooter. I really enjoyed Shooter.
I am a United States Senator.
Yep. um, uh, Little teaser for next week's episode. Uh, it's a movie that I also really enjoyed. The
we're already
Town.
we're already teasing next week's episode.
We're just gonna go straight on into it and tease it, and we should also tease why next week's episode is a movie that I have seen.
That's true, but We'll leave that. We'll leave that on the cliffhanger for the end of the episode. Well, this week's episode, though.
Fair enough.
This week's episode, well, we watched Heat. Well, we've watched it twice now. Um, but
Oopsies.
we watched Heat.
My opinion didn't really change from the first to the second. That was just the second watch was merely just a refresher for me.
Yeah, I think it was more a formality at that point that it had been a while, and let's go back and watch it and make sure that I took notes again like I always do, and I think I only had one note to add, which is a funny bit actually about the movie. Every time we talk about Heat like as a movie to somebody, it seems like they always gravitate towards the Melissa McCarthy uh like buddy cop like comedy, which is The Heat and not Heat. So I always think that's funny. I don't know why.
Yeah, everybody's always like, "Oh, that movie's funny." I'm like, "Nope, not that movie.
Not that movie.
It is not a funny movie."
Yeah, yeah. I don't really know why that's the case, but
Recency bias.
I guess
It's not even that The Heat is that recent. It's just it's way newer than Heat.
Heat came out in 1995. The Heat came out in 2013. I looked it up before we started because I wanted to make a point of talking about that. So yeah, I guess your recency bias is fair, but what is that? That's it's 12-year difference between now and when that movie came out. So
Yeah, but it's also a 30-year difference between now and when Heat came out.
that's very fair. I also realized that I don't think I've seen The Heat in its entirety. I was working at the movie theater when that movie came out, so like I saw bits and pieces of it, but I also never had any kind of drive to go see it. I
Uh,
don't know if I've ever seen it
to
all
be
the way
honest, I don't
through
know if
anyway.
I've seen it in its entirety either. Uh, I'm not a big Melissa McCarthy fan.
Well, yeah, I know that too.
Just not not fully my cup of tea.
It's got Sandra Bullock in
But she's okay.
it.
I've to be fair, I feel like I, I, I don't know fully what Sandra Bullock's career is, but I feel like I've seen late Sandra Bullock career, not prime Sandra Bullock career. I don't know when the height of her career would be. Just considering she is older, I assume she's been active for a long time. But like when I think Sandra Bullock, I think like The Blind Side, and then after that, which space movie was she in?
Oh, that was Gravity.
Yeah,
That was
Gravity.
Gravity with
See,
that had
those all blend together. Like I like a lot of them, but those all blend together in my head because there was a couple years span where you had The Martian, you had Gravity, you had Interstellar, all of those like space movies around the same time.
that's fair. I think of Sandra Bullock in like Speed, so that's like
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
okay. I also like Speed. I guess I haven't seen Speed in a long time enough to realize that that's Sandra Bullock.
Well, don't forget about Speed too, where the cruise ship can't stop. We could talk about the semantics of sea of Speed 2 later. Yeah, why that movie exists. Not I think it has sequel syndrome where they're like, we got to do it bigger and better. Um, but anyway, so onward, I guess further into our normal structure of things for the episode. Let's see. I read you the IMDb blurb, as I do always before we start. Uh, which is a group of high-end professional thieves start to feel the heat from the LAPD when they unknowingly leave a verbal cue at their latest heist. You know what I should have asked you, and I didn't even think about this until right now. I should have asked you what you thought the verbal cue was going to be, or the verbal clue was going to be.
I probably would have guessed it was going to be name related. I don't think I would have guessed how exactly it was going to play out.
That's fair.
To be fair, I expected the heist to be I expected them to just be bank robbers, I guess, specifically.
This is Mike Myers. Alright, I'm sorry. I just looked over and I was like, speak of heist movies. Anyway, all right.
Uh, where was I at? So when you cut that back in,
You were talking about the verbal cue. Well, just go on about that. I'll cut
okay.
it together.
I would have expected the verbal cue to be a name thing, probably just like it was. Well, I guess that guy just refers to people by that, and that's how he got found out eventually. But I would have expected it to be slightly different. I in my head I pictured them as bank robbers, not just general heistery. Is that like the robbing an armored truck?
Yeah, the first, I guess, to open the movie, the first job we see uh is them stealing. Well, at the time we don't know exactly what. You can't really tell what they are. It's not like you don't really get a good shot. We find out later that they're bearer bonds.
Yeah,
And that's what they're heisting them out of an armored truck. And that's the first time we meet the crew.
yeah. Beer is a mistake.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm switching to water here. I just have to have something to wet my whistle because I have to talk so goddamn much. Um,
My ears are hot.
hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are super comfortable, so I usually don't have that. Well, I do say all
These
the
are
time.
comfortable. It's this one in particular is not so comfortable because I have an earbud in there on top of.
Why don't you just put your other earbud in so that your ear hurt the same amount?
No.
You look, you do. Anyway,
Uh, this one's just a little sweaty. That's all.
fair enough. Um, talk about the height.
Here, do you want me to just full on go over that whole part again, and then you can go straight in, and it'll be clean?
No. We're talking about the first heist. They
Yeah, how
set up
the heist opens or the movie
right
opens is with the first heist. That's how you meet the crew. Blah blah blah.
right.
I could go back in, like I said, with the audio cue thing, and we can make it all one big boop.
No, that's okay. This is not gonna be hard to cut together. I just have to go and figure out where we started bullshitting and where we stopped bullshitting. This. I'm trying to kind of follow the notes this week.
You should honestly, you should have a notepad over there and go put timestamps.
Yeah, I probably should. I need a new notepad because this one is full of shit. So, but it's fine. I'll figure it out. Okay.
Huh.
What?
This is completely unrelated, but Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves just popped up on the thing for Speed. Like they were showing it. E.T. is on this TV for some reason, and they were showing like old like behind the scenes shit from Speed.
Oh, well, that's coincidental.
It is listening.
Uh, so okay. After we meet the crew for the kind of the first time, I guess I should ask you, like, before we started watching the movie, I asked you what you thought the movie was going to be about. Um, to your response, if I remember it correctly, this is paraphrasing mostly, but you said they're gonna pull off the ultimate heist, and you said for it to be a good heist movie, you have to pull off the heist. So I found that was interesting. Uh, and then you thought Al Pacino and Robert De Niro were both were gonna be in the heist crew, and you thought that Val Kilmer was gonna be a cop.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I thought that because Val Kilmer, Top Gun, military boy, military close to cop. Therefore, he's the good guy.
It didn't have
Uh,
anything to do with Val Kilmer being Batman.
no, no,
Oh wait, no, we didn't watch that. We didn't watch that Batman and Robin. We watched
no.
the other one. We watched Batman Forever. That's what we watched. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. That's
it had
why.
nothing to do with that. To be honest, I don't know if I knew Val Kilmer was Batman or not.
So you didn't know that?
I feel like I might have, but I also might not have. Like I didn't watch a ton of superhero movies growing up.
Those movies are like very. like known very well as not being good movies, as you remember when we watched.
That
Which,
was the Schwarzenegger one is bad.
well, yeah, the Val Kilmer one is equally as bad. That's the one that has Jim Carrey as the Riddler.
But see, that sounds funny. Then again, I guess I feel like it's probably I feel like superhero movies back then were a joke, whereas I feel like maybe they weren't being taken seriously. Where nowadays, well, we've gone kind of slightly back into joke realm in terms of they kind of suck a little bit, but like peak like Avengers time, like those were fucking massive movies that like everybody cared about,
Yeah, that's true. I
and they
don't
became like
think.
serious and had actual story, and it's not just it's the Ice Age.
Yeah. Do you know what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true. I do feel like those movies are trying to like we'll go back and watch because I don't. You've never seen the original Tim Burton Batman movies, right?
No, I doubt it.
We'll go back and watch those because those are very Tim Burton movies. Like they're super. Like have you ever seen Edward Scissorhands or any of?
Yes.
Okay, they're all set like that. And stylistically are very that way. And I think Batman Forever and Batman and Robin are trying to be way more like family friendly. Like the marketing. I'm pretty sure I have a couple of them, but the McDonald's Batman cup they were made for toys. That's what it was. It's like that, like so to like sell toys. Then that's kind of why the movies are so campy and not very good.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the superhero movies got slightly more like real and not super campy when the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans and whatnot came out.
Well, Tobey Maguire is Spider Man, so I guess that's fair. Those movies
They had
are
those, then you had Iron Man, and that was then really the start of the old superhero movement.
yeah, Iron Man is the start of the Marvel movie train and them just pumping out movies every year. So I guess delving back into Heat. Um, so after we see the first heist, I do remember you uh pointing out Danny Trejo and being like, "Is that Machete?" I was like, "Yes,
Yeah,
Nate."
I did know that. So I do know who Danny Trejo is. I know the name and everything. Like I would have been able to just say Danny Trejo, but I think the first time you see him, you just catch a glimpse at first before they actually show it, and
Mm.
then my brain just instantly went, "Is that Machete?" Which the funniest part about that to me is I've literally never seen Machete. I just know that that's Danny Trejo.
What are we gonna do with you, dude? Like we, what are we gonna do with you?
But that's just the way my dumb ADHD brain works.
So I guess moving on from the first heist, then we kind of start to see how the crew handles business, right?
We actually forgot to talk about the over unders.
Oh shit, you're right. We totally forgot about the over unders. Well, we can do that now.
All
Yeah,
right.
let's just do it now. So over unders for the movie. I came up. The first one I came up with was the number of actors that you could name, because I thought that that would be interesting for you to be able to put face names to face like names to faces. And I figured I set the line at 5.5.
I'm usually not super great at it. I'd be like, I know who that is, but I
But I don't know.
can't tell you who that is.
Yeah, there was four that I knew for sure you were gonna get. So I really was there was enough play I think for there was gonna be you'd be able to get to. I figured you were gonna be able to hit the line, but you said under when I said the 5.5. You said under.
Because well, I think I forgot why we looked into it a little bit, like somewhat. Or the we asked that question when the movie was starting, and it shows like the Flash name thing of who's in it.
Yeah.
So I got to see a couple of the names that were in it, and I'm like, okay, well, I know who that is. I know who that is. I know who that is, and I could like name the face to the person.
Mm.
Uh, and I think on that I got four. It was De Niro, Pacino, Val Kilmer, and Natalie Portman. I
Yeah,
was like,
those were the four
I
that
got, I got those for sure.
But yeah,
Um,
those were the four that I knew you were gonna get.
and then I'm starting to think. I was like, can I name like a bunch of actors from the '90s and stuff? Not that they're all from the '90s, but it's gonna be slightly more dated than people I could think of.
Mm.
And I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get more than 5.5. Turns out I could.
I think when we totaled it up, you had 8.
Yeah,
You could,
I got it. And there's other people that I knew, I just couldn't put a name to it.
yeah.
So like I knew De Niro, Pacino, Val Kilmer, Natalie Portman, Ashley Judd, Danny Trejo, William Finchner. I think that's how you say it. I'm not actually sure.
Mm.
Uh, and Dennis Haysbert, I believe.
Yeah. All state.
That's all, State Stand. Are you in good hands?
But I recognized Sergeant Drucker's character. I can't say the name. I'm terrible with names.
Yeah.
I recognized John Voight.
Yeah. After a little while, it took you a minute to put together that was John Voight, mostly because of the handlebar mustache and long hair. But
yeah, yeah.
You know.
But well, I don't think I wouldn't have been able to pull John Voight's name. I just knew who John Voight was.
That's fair.
Like I've seen him and stuff. The name didn't click until I saw it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's who that is.
That is true. And then after that, so I asked you. Well, actually, you came up with the next two. The amount of money, the value of the heist. You said was $10 million. The line was.
Well, that was the line. Was 10.
Yeah, the line was $10 million. You went over. You were correct. The heist is $12.2 million. So no, you hit. I need to go back and I got to catalog these and see how often you're right each week. We'll keep a running total. And then
Wasn't right on the next one.
Well, then you also said how many times the heist crew interacts with the police. Now, elaborate on what you would consider an interaction between the police. Like, what did you think?
I was thinking more along the lines of like chasing. So like, if there was multiple heists per se in the thing, let's say there's multiple heists, that like the cops show up and then they get away, or basically that's what I was mostly thinking of, or they get brought in for questioning specifically.
Okay.
Now, looking back at it, we calculated it as one in the end, but I guess there was kind of more than that. Depending on what, again, I guess it depends on what we consider the interaction. So there's the time where Pacino and De Niro go have coffee, both fully knowing who the other one is at that point. There's the time, the other times it's the cops are surveilling them. They don't know until the time where De Niro figured it out and is watching them try to watch them. So I don't know if that's considered interaction.
When you originally brought it up, I thought that your it would be like you said when De Niro and Pacino were sitting down and having coffee. That to me was an interaction. Like that's what I thought that you were kind of going to, or them passing each other and not knowing who they are. Like that's what I thought you were going for, not necessarily them being chased. But
originally I was thinking, I think police chase. Basically I was just thinking it didn't even have to be interact with the main character cops. Like I was thinking just the classic, movie or TV show trope of they get real close within the first 5 minutes of the show or movie, and then all of a sudden a semi pulls out in front of the road and they get away.
Yeah.
I was thinking something along those lines of a chase, like that'll happen a couple times before they figure out who this crew is.
Yeah.
And like they were so close multiple times. That's what I was thinking originally, I think. But I guess they technically interact more.
Well, then I'll give it to you. We set the line at 1.5, so I think I'll give it to you. I think that's fair. You said over, so I think you hit the over.
Yeah, because thinking back on it, there's the De Niro, Pacino directly interacting with each other scene. There's the it's definitely not as direct where they're staking him out after they're at the restaurant. The cops are just watching them.
Yeah.
Once De Niro and the crew figure out that the cops are onto him a little bit, they set him up at the shipping yard,
Yeah.
and they're taking pictures of them and watching them. Well, there's the actual heist interaction, the big old shootout in the street in the city.
Yeah.
Then there's like smaller interactions where they're trying to pressure people into talking. So like that's where like they try to get Chris to come get his wife, like
Yeah.
meet up with her, and you know he just dips out of that situation. But interacted with them slightly.
I guess that's fair. Yeah. Like I said, I think you hit the over. I'll give it to you. So I guess rolling into finishing up Act One, I guess with the movie, like I said, we see that kind of the how the crew does business. We meet John Voight's character, who's kind of their fence, and we get the introduction. Well, I guess we didn't talk about how bad the heist goes. When we meet Wayne Grow for the first time, and how he's just
a fucking madman.
yeah, and how that kind of fucks the heist up.
He it's interesting thinking about it as the rest of the crew seems to make sense for a heist crew. They seem fairly composed, like put together. Wangro just seems like a fuck up, like a different kind of career criminal. Their career, like I feel like high class career criminals, the main heist crew, and then Wangro seems like cokehead, just murderer, just crazy.
We
Like
the so
they don't seem like they belong in
Wayne
the
Grow,
same side of things.
this is their first job with him, right? Because the rest of
Yeah,
the crew has done jobs together. This is the first time that they're doing with him. So I guess they didn't really have a lot of time to vet him in that sense. Yeah, because Michael picks him up at a bus station, right?
yeah,
Uh, and that's their first interaction, and
that we see.
that we see, yeah. But yeah, the heist goes poorly because Wanger kills one of the cops, and then they have to kills one of the guards, and they have to kill all the guards, right? And so now this is murder homicide, you know.
Well, Wangro just starts getting aggro,
Yeah,
and that's actually what causes Michael to drop the clue
yeah. This is true.
that the
He calls him
homeless man hears.
Yeah, he calls him slick.
Yeah, which apparently is just what Michael calls people, which is what eventually gets the heat onto him.
Well, oh, he said it. In the title, he said it.
I did say that every single time De Niro said the thing about heat. I was like, oh, he said it.
Well, yeah, that's just a classic, you know. If they say the movie title, you gotta point it out, right?
Yeah.
But then we see them try to deal with Wayne Grow. They're gonna kill him.
Yep.
Classic action movie trope.
Somehow vanishes from
From
under his feet without any
no
inkling that it
noise,
happened.
no nothing. Yeah, he's just
poof,
gone.
I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
But the way they set that up, I knew he was gonna come back to fuck something up. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, what was the point of that and them not just killing him outright? There had to be a point to not let the kill happen.
That's very true. And we also get our introduction to Al Pacino's character, Vincent Hanna, Detective Hanna, who seems to be he's got his own stuff going on, you know,
Slightly unhinged.
a little bit,
Yeah.
but
Married to the job more than his marriages.
yeah, marriages we find out very early on.
Yeah.
Is what he's on his third wife, right? That's that.
I want to say third.
Wife. I believe it's his third.
His stepdaughter's got problems.
Yeah, she has
Child Natalie Portman.
Yeah, she has big daddy issues. We see that early on as well.
A little bit of foreshadowing.
It is very true. Like I said, and the only other thing I think the big thing that happens towards the end of Act One is we get the love interest introduction in Edie.
Yep, we sure do. I love that part of the movie. It's so good.
Well, why don't you elaborate? What's your take on that? As we get her introduction, I say the end of Act One is about Neil leaves Edie's place. Like that seems like that's about the end. It wraps up Act One.
I just find their whole start is insane. She's seen him multiple times at where she works, just doing stuff. So then they're at some like diner type thing, like with a
It's,
bar countertop,
yeah, it looks like a diner.
and they're sitting fairly close to each other. And then she asks him about his book, and he's just very standoffish, like, "Fuck you asking me questions for?" And she's like, I work, at the a bookstore, I guess, or whatever, and seen you a couple times. That's all." It's like, and then he turns immediately. He's like, "All right, okay then. I guess it's nothing serious." So then they just start talking, and then immediately go to her place, and I'm just like, okay. And then she's like, just part of So I think what ends up actually happening, which is slightly, I'm not giving it enough credit for, is he's seeing everybody else in his crew's life. They all have somebody that they care about. Mostly, all have somebody, and he's just full on loner because he's got his whole mantra of got to be able to just leave immediately with what you got and get out if the heat gets too hot.
It's fair.
But I think he's finally getting, a little lonely, a little sentimental, which is what the attraction like with that is. I just feel like again, part of the problem with some of the other movies is the actual on-screen like interactions just seem so minimal and so throwaway that I feel like there's not enough development between the two characters for the like what actually happens between the two characters. Like she then finds out that he's a criminal and later on in the movie and it's just like she's mad at first, but then almost immediately gets the fuck over it and is willing to flee the country with him.
Well, so what I will say, and there's some truth to what you're saying. I think a lot of that is just the constraint of storytelling from so many different perspectives. Because we see Chris Val Kilmer's character is having issues at home too. Everybody has problems, and so we're kind of searching through that like together. So there's a lot of time where we won't see. There's some implied things that kind of happen,
I guess the thing that works better with the other characters is that the relationship is already established. Like it doesn't. You don't get to see the relationship happen, but like it's like that's a married couple, and you're just that's a married couple. You accept that, right? Yes. And it's not a new relationship that has. I mean, what's the time frame from the start of the movie, like the time he meets Edie the first time, to the end of the movie? How long are we talking?
I wouldn't say it's tough. We don't really get any dates. It feels like a week, but it could be longer. I would say probably maybe a couple of weeks.
That's why in my head that's where the problem comes in. It's just the like, right to it, like again, yes, you're right. It has to do with just the storytelling side of it. You kind of just have to take the leaps, but it just feels weird. Whereas like Chris, yes, he's having marital issues.
But
Vincent Hannah's having marital issues, but the relationship's already established, and so like you could perceive that that's been happening for a long time, even though you're only getting to see a glimpse of it. It's been happening for a long time, so it like you're just seeing like the straw that breaks the camel's back type shit.
That's very true. That's very true.
But like, I mean, everybody else in the crew, I think, has somebody. This is me just actually like these dots very recently connected, like kind of just now, of why Neil's character needed the love interest or was trying to get one, because he sees everybody else has somebody. Everybody else in the crew, I think, had a partner. Michael's got a wife and kids.
Yeah.
Trejo's got a girlfriend, maybe wife. I don't remember what she is, but something.
Everybody else is booed up, yes.
And Neil's just sitting over there in sad, lonely times.
We also Edie does tell us that she gets like Edie is needy and lonely too. Like we get that information from the movie. It's very, 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 very quick, but we get that from it too, from her too.
You get that, and then there's also just the age discrepancy, which is like a little
Yeah.
Like she seems, fresh out of school. He's a full grown ass man.
Yeah, it's definitely
Like his kids should be her age.
fair enough. That is also very true.
So
I will say their dynamic is weird. It's not the it's not necessarily, I guess, how I would have written it, but I'm not a writer or a director, so you know,
yeah, and
it is a very tertiary part of the story, but it feels very tertiary. Like it feels like it is the back burnerest thing that's
it
happening
feels
in the
tertiary
story.
to me until the end. But then in the end, I guess it just shows. In the end, it shows what Neil really has to be about. But I feel like, post heist, once she finds everything out, all that stuff, that feels more main storyline to me at that point.
That's fair. Um, I do remember asking you about how you felt the pacing of the movie was going because I know we talked at length uh, in Scarface about pacing and how you felt like watching the movie. There's a lot of time skips and things like that. Yeah, you said that the pacing was okay though. You
Yeah,
didn't feel like it was.
my only negative to the pacing was the relationship. Like that pacing felt weird. Everything else pacing wise felt okay. I didn't feel like I was waiting too long in between heists because there's three heists in the movie. One one and a half successful heists and one full on aborted heist. With the one where I forget what they're stealing. Chris is inside hacking some shit on the computer or drilling,
Yeah, yeah, that's when
and
they.
De Niro's chilling outside, and then he hears the motherfucker sit down in the truck and make a
Yeah,
noise.
and he's like, "We gotta go."
Yeah. I forget that one was some minerals they were going for or something. I don't remember exactly. That's what the book was about that he was reading about when he met Edie.
Yeah, he's reading about metals to drill through the safe, or it looks like a safe. That's what. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what they were stealing. I don't remember that, but
I think it was like minerals or some shit that they were like. I thought it was. No, that was. Hmm. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was, but they don't get to follow that one through because the cops made themselves known,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
and then they just dipped.
yeah. So then going into Act Two, we find out who those bearer bonds they stole were. They were Van Zant, right? William
Yeah,
Fisher's character. They decide to try to sell them back to him, which
the ultimate scamas.
seems a bit scummy, right?
Yeah.
It seems like that could be some issues there, and there are.
Well, it seems scummy, but at the same time, for Van Zant, it's not bad business for him. The bad business is dealing with the people who just stole from you. But overall, he would have got all the money back from insurance,
Well, yes,
and then would have bought them back at a lesser price. Therefore, like let's say he makes 1.5 of what they're actually worth.
yeah, he makes a profit, but do you want to? If somebody walked in here and was like, "Hey, and steals your TV," and then they sell it back to you, and they're like, "Yeah, but you can sell it." You don't really want to do business with that person, right? Like that's not something that you want to do. Even if the dollars and the cents make sense, that's an issue, right? Which
Yeah,
is which is exactly what happens. Is that Van Zant effectively decides to try to kill them.
yeah.
Like you're not gonna steal from
He
me.
tries to kill Neil
He tries to kill Neil. That goes poorly,
very poorly.
very poorly, and then basically Neil is like, we're gonna kill him,"
Yeah,
and that
and then
becomes a
Van Zant goes full bitch mode and is just hiding.
yeah. Uh, and so I remember after we kind of we get to that point of the movie, we paused for a minute, and you said that you felt that it was strange to have two antagonists in the movie at that point, where you've got Hannah, like from Neil's perspective anyway. You've got Hannah, who is the cop, is they know they're being watched at this point, right? And like all the issues with that, and then you've got Van Zant, who now Neil seems to have now Neil has a grudge against from
Well,
this.
Neil has a grudge against, and I think this is fresh after him trying to kill Neil, which I assumed at that point Van Zant was going to be more aggro and like Van Zant, he in the end he kind of doesn't really become full antagonist. Like he's a mild inconvenience, except for the fact that when Waingro comes in, Waingro actually becomes more of a fuck you to the crew than Van Zant, except for the fact that Waingro comes to Van Zant out of spite for the crew.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
Van Zant himself effectively did nothing to the crew. Like he was a nobody. The crew tried to fuck him over extra kinda. He didn't like that. He tried to kill him. That didn't go well. And then from that point, he just goes hiding in his office. To then eventually he's just in his house where he dies.
Yeah.
Um. But yeah, he becomes way less involved than I thought he was going to be.
That's fair.
At that very point, anyway. Uh, the thing is, didn't see Wangro being a serial killer slash rapist. Doesn't really fit into the with the rest of the crew.
Yeah, I didn't really bring that. We had kind of glossed over, like talked about that earlier, and so I felt like, yeah, I think that is more just reinforcing Wayne Gro's behavior and how he's kind of just nuts, and that could be another potential issue further down the line, realizing that he's just out in the world and the crew doesn't really know it.
I feel like it was weird the way that it cut into that. It was just like that part was a little odd, and
I think
I feel like it's because I feel like Wangro was. I don't know exactly how long in my head right now it's been since you saw Wangro. Like you see them almost kill Wangro, and then you don't see that motherfucker. What I feel like is for like an hour, and then all of a sudden it cuts
it's
back to Wangro like effectively rape and murdering a chick,
a
a
prostitute.
prostitute, and then it's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it does feel like they have to remind you that Wayne Grow exists for the further end, like towards the end of for the end of the story to make sense, and that's kind of what that is. You know what
I
I
feel
mean?
like it would have been slightly better if Wangro was out there just kind of fucking with shit like all the time a little bit. Like all of a sudden, like it cut between the stuff that it was normally cut between, but then like let's just say it cuts to Wangro like I don't know, robbing a convenience store or
Yeah,
like just other little mild crimes that just keep showing you that this crazy bastard's still out there, than to just go straight into after an hour of not seeing him just like raping, murdering a prostitute. Is like whoa,
yeah, that is true.
whoa. But this is the guy that they were trying to work with. Like again, this is where the difference in the type of criminal. There's the higher class like heisty criminal that actually smart, methodical, and then just the brute force fucking savage criminal that is Wayne.
Well, the other thing too that I think that is important about this particular part of the movie is and you touched on this too is you didn't know how those people were going to tie into the final heist because as we follow the heist crew we know that they're still planning this heist to rob this bank like they're still trying to
Well, yeah, Nate sends them to blanking on the guy that like catching all the radio waves, and you just got to know how to use the information.
yeah it's just out there.
Yeah, it's just out there. It's just free to grab. You just got to know how to grab it.
Yeah.
That guy who basically lays out how the heist will work, and it's the way he lays it out is basically a slam dunk heist. And realistically, if it wasn't for Wangro, it would have been a slam dunk heist because Wangro is the one who gives the tip off to the cops.
Yeah. Well, he tells Van Zant who tells the cops.
Effectively, same.
Effectively, yes, yeah. But yes, yes,
Well,
that's how that happens.
He tells him after beating the shit out of Danny Trejo and his wife.
Yeah.
Like rape and murdering his wife and then beating the shit out of Danny Trejo.
Yep. But we don't find that out till much later.
We don't find that out till much later. But that just means that the heist, like that guy said, was going to be extremely easy for him. Like they were effectively going to have no issues.
Yeah.
They were going to be in and out, and then, you know, the cops just show up a little earlier than they were expecting because of the tip off.
And in we also start to see Hannah kind of start to put the squeeze on the crew with
Well, yeah, he's got everybody on tracked
on
and
surveillance
full on
and
monitor.
then we find out that Chris's wife is having an affair with with Hank Azaria. I can't remember his character's name. Was it Maracano or something like that?
Yeah, Adam Marcano.
Yeah, like the guy from Vegas.
Yeah.
And then they go and they're like, hey, you're gonna help us bring her in, which is probably is the that portion of the movie has probably the best line in it. Which is, but she's got a great ass.
Why'd I get mixed up with that bitch?
Because she got a great ass! And you got your head all the way up it!
Which was all improvised, by the way. That was not written into the script. Al Pacino just did that. So the look of confusion on Hank Azaria's face is very real. It's a very real reaction because he didn't know what to do.
All of those moments of Al Pacino, I really like those things. I find those very funny.
Well, it's part of his acting style. Now that you've seen 2 Al Pacino movies, you can kind of put them
at least
together.
2, yeah.
Well, you've never seen like Any Given Sunday before, have you?
Nope.
I have to watch Any Given Sunday at some point too, as well, so you can see Al Pacino yell at Jamie Foxx being a football player. Al Pacino does a lot of yelling. And as we kind of close up Act 2, this is when Neil and Vincent have coffee, where we figure out that they know who each other are, and they sit down. I think a big theme of the movie is that they're almost the same person, right? Where they're 2 sides of the same coin, and how time is a recurring factor with them with the movie. Everything is on a schedule. Everything's based on time, and how the movie kind of pushes that forward. You know, Neil having this rule of time, right? You can't do anything. You can't be around anything. You can't do anything that you're not ready to just immediately leave, right? And
leave within like 5 minutes notice.
Yeah, and Hannah is relentless in his pursuit of work, where it consumes all of his time, so much to the point that he's failed marriages. You know what I mean? He can't do anything else but work, and how much that consumes him.
But he also has an admiration for Neil. Like, obviously Neil's a criminal, and you know his job is to put that away. But he also like respects him enough to like see what he's doing is impressive and calculated and shit.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you know, they're different sides of the 2 different sides of the same coin.
Yeah. So now that Neil and Hannah have had coffee and kind of had their heart to heart interaction, that moment, that's kind of what I feel like wraps up Act 2, because now we're gearing up for the heist. We're gearing up for the big plot point in the movie. And even when Neil and Hannah are sitting there talking, Neil is like, I take scores. This is what I do. I don't know how to do anything else. Hannah's like, I'm a cop. I don't know how to do anything else. So we know that like this is gonna happen. They're not gonna bail on the heist at all, because there had been talks that maybe they were gonna.
And they also have the moment where Hannah's like, I won't hesitate, and Neil says, I won't hesitate either, which slight foreshadowing, because I feel like there was some slight hesitation.
In gearing up for the heist, they're ready to do the heist, and we find out that Danny Trejo can't shake his cop tail, right? Like, he can't shake the cops that are tailing him, so he can't be a part of it. They just so happen to be in the diner with Brennan, who is
Dennis
who's Dennis Haysbert,
Yeah,
the Allstate guy.
Allstate.
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 So maybe one day.
When he popped on the screen, I was like, well, he's gonna be part of the heist crew because why else would he be in the movie if he's not in the heist crew?
Yeah, I also, maybe one day maybe we'll have an episode where we talk about how the sausage is made, and you guys can see. I'll put up our notes so you can see them, because it's a lot of just paraphrasing. So, like in our notes, I'm sorry to Dennis Haysbert for referring to him as Allstate, but I refer to him as Allstate because that's that just is what I was typing when we were sitting there. so
Yeah, in the notes it says Neil gets Allstate to be a driver.
yeah, not the best way to take notes, but it works for how I have to take them.
Well, and when you do say it, his face does boop just in my brain.
That's kind of the point. I did ask you how you thought that the movie was going to wrap up, and you kind of called I think a big part of the plot, the big part of the plot point. You thought that Van Zandt.
I thought it could go one of two ways.
Yeah. Well, elaborate. Go ahead. I'll let you tell it.
I thought it could go one of two ways. That Van Zandt was going to use Wangro to get to Neil, or that Wangro was going to kill Van Zandt to save his own ass with Neil. Like, look, I took out this problem for you. Leave me the fuck alone. That's the way I was thinking of it. But I ended up being partially right, where Wangro goes to Van Zandt and be like, I can help you fuck this guy over. And it works. It fucks up the heist at the end. Like, they pull off the heist effectively in the bank. It's only when leaving that shit hits the fan because of what Wangro did.
Well, yeah, and it is funny too. I do remember you saying that there wasn't a lot of on-screen heist planning, which you made a big deal about. You seem to want to, when things are happening in a movie, you'd like need the visual of seeing it happen.
Well,
like there's
I do
never,
like
there's never
more build up in the heist, like in planning and stuff. Like a part of that, I think of. So in Fast Five, as we talked about earlier, there's a little bit of planning and stuff that happens in the movie that I like. Like they get different people have different jobs, like specialties in the crew, and they go get equipment based on those specialties. Like somebody will get like special cars, and somebody will get special like hacking equipment. It also kind of makes me think of GTA, where you do those start missions before the actual GTA heist. Like you go get the Kuruma, and you go do all the stuff. You're building up to the heist. It's not just, it's like, all right, we're doing the heist. I like the build up. I don't know why. I feel like I need it in things. I mean, so Scarface is slightly different. It wasn't a heist we were building up to. It was just the kingpinness of it. I feel like it just was like you're supposed to take it at face value, which this is potentially where my not problem with movies. I like movies just fine, but I more enjoy TV shows is because the buildup is there. Like there are certain shows, depending on what the format is, you're building up to a thing the whole season, and then there's the payoff.
It's the long form content of it. Like within
the time in movies, you just have to take things at face value. It's like this is the thing, you have to accept it and move on with it. And my brain doesn't let me do that.
Yeah, some movies are better at it than others, but we've been watching some older movies, so the way that they're written is a little bit more dated in that way, where it's just like, okay, well, this is the information you present, and that's just the way that it is. It's the force metric, where the force is just the magic force that controls all things, and you just have to accept that. You never really get to see why or how it works. It's just that is the way that it is.
Yeah.
You did make a point of talking about that you thought that the heist was going to be a bigger part of the end of the movie, because it is in the end. It's like if you cut Act 3 in half, I would say that it's the first half of Act 3. It's then the last half.
I thought the heist itself was going to be more of a challenge.
Yeah.
Like more of a to do than it just. They kind of just walk up in that bitch, steal all the shit, and then just walk the fuck right back out. The bigger part of it is the attempted escape, the whole shootout in the city street, and then the aftermath of actually getting away, which is the cops still trying to catch them. That's what the more of Act 3 was, not the actual heist like I thought it would be.
Yeah, and speaking of the shootout in the street, that is also like a very well known and very well done scene in terms of filming it. So all the sound design for
It
the
sounded
gunshots, yeah, it sounds like they're shooting in streets
In
in
a city
between
street,
buildings, even down to like Val Kilmer reloading the guns. Now, you did say that he's like they're shooting a lot of bullets before I've seen it
They
reload,
were
but
shooting a fuck ton before they ever reloaded. But
they do reload, and you get to see it on screen.
yeah, the reload was good. Like it was, and actually well done. But I was like, man, y'all shot like I don't know, 150 rounds maybe before you ever fucking reloaded these bitches.
Yeah, well, that's movie magic for you. So after the failed heist attempt in which Dennis Haysbert dies, Tom Sizemore Michael dies.
That poor bastard did not get really any movie.
No, he didn't. he gets hustled by the manager that his parole officer sets him up with, and then
He gets a shitty job. It is basically it kind of shows how fucked up the system is, where he gets forced into a shitty job where the manager takes advantage of him, and he's just getting fucked in life. And then and then an opportunity to turn back to crime happens, and he's like, "That's way better. I'm gonna go do that." And then
he turns
instantly
around and goes, "Fuck this job."
Yeah.
And then we go from there. But he dies. Michael dies when they get split up. Right.
Yep.
Chris gets shot, and Neil has to drag him through the city, and then they escape. And then he drops Chris off, or he has
Chris goes with Nate.
Yeah, Chris goes with Nate. And Nate's like, all right, we've got I got your exit plan and everything ready. He's like, I gotta wrap a couple things up. And even Nate, see.
Neil has Nate change the exit plan.
Well, he has
because he doesn't know if it's burned or not.
Yeah, he doesn't trust it. But he's like, I need to go and figure out. Like, he's like, how did this happen, right? And so he goes to look into that, and he wants to get Edie so that he can get out of there. And Nate, with some more foreshadowing here, Nate is like, all right, well, be here at XYZ time. He's like, what are you gonna do about Waingro? And Neil goes, I don't give a shit about Waingro, right?
Yeah. Until he finds out where he is.
Yeah, until he finds out where he is. you even said he most definitely gives a shit.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, I don't care. We're getting out. And I'm just like, I bet you care a little bit.
Loose ends make my ass itch.
Yeah.
Because by that point, he's found out
that Waingro has kind of screwed him twice now.
Yeah, and he went and effectively killed Trejo and his wife.
Yeah.
And also fucked the rest of the crew, which killed
Michael's dead.
Michael and
Brennan.
Allstate.
Yeah, Allstate.
What happens if you total your new car? Now would be a good time to have accident forgiveness.
So, all while this is happening, we find out that Vincent Hanna is him and his wife are about to get a divorce because she's like, you don't talk to me enough. She's
just openly cheats on him and
yeah
and blames him for. It's like, well, you don't take care of me enough, so I had to do this, which is just crazy work. And all while that bastard is just in the thing. He's like, I don't care that you're sleeping with my wife, but you cannot be watching my fucking TV.
Yeah, this what was it? I can't remember his name. Was it Kevin or something like that? He's like, "Sit down, Kevin." But we also haven't seen we haven't seen Natalie Portman in a while. And then we get her suicide attempt towards the end of the movie. Right?
Well, before that happens, when he leaves, because like after that happens with his wife and that he fucks off, and then you see him leaving. I think he's leaving the police station, like thinking it's over, pissed off.
Yeah.
He's going home, thinking Neil's gone, and he has the TV in his fucking passenger seat. And then he starts freaking out at the traffic light, opens the door, and just kicks the TV out of the fucking car, which was just so funny to me. Because everybody that's sitting at the bus stop or whatever at that traffic light was just like, "What the fuck just happened?"
What the hell's going on here? But yeah, but then he gets back to his hotel room, and Lauren has done did taken the path to Slice Town into his bathtub,
Which was very jarring for multiple reasons. I feel like one, my first thought was, "Well, how the fuck did she get here?" Like, because if in theory he's got a hotel room because he just kind of like not got kicked out but like left.
yeah,
How did his stepdaughter get into the hotel room?
yeah,
But that was me taking it like literally.
yeah,
But I was just like, what the hell? And then then you go through the whole thing of you know him trying to save her, like showing that he does actually care. He just he's caught up in work stuff, but he does actually care about her.
Well, and I think this just reinforces that Hannah is so focused on his job that he doesn't see the things happening around him. You know,
He knew she was troubled, but he didn't
he
realize
didn't
that troubled.
right, and so that like that how his relationship with his outside of work life is or how his relationship with his work is interfering with his home life. And then we find out that Neil finds out where Wayne Grow is. He goes and gets Edie, and he's like, "We got to wrap up one more thing." Always,
Got to take a quick detour.
yeah. It's always when you go back for seconds is your problem. So Neil gets to the hotel that Wayne Grow's at and kills Wayne Grow, right? And while all this is happening, the cops have been surveilling Wayne Grow, but the cops so they call Hannah and is like, "Hey, Neil is here." Right? And so Hannah leaves the hospital and goes down there, and this is where we get our final showdown, where we get them running across the airport. Excuse me, LAX. They're running across LAX. You definitely tell that this movie was pre 9/11.
Yeah, because they just kind of get out there all willy nilly, running with guns.
Yeah.
And just you ain't even getting that close.
Nope. No.
Not without somebody saying shit. They run across the front of a plane that's taxiing.
Yeah. It would never happen. But not today. And then we get our Neil ends up kind of putting him in a position where he thinks he's gonna be able to get Hannah before that happens, and he doesn't.
Like I said, I think he hesitates slightly. Like so, the lights come on, and that like I guess was like a distraction.
Yeah.
Somehow casts the biggest possible shadow that gives away Neil's position to Hannah, who gets the get turned on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Neil hesitates. Basically, I don't know why. That part. That's the only reason I don't know if I would fully consider that. Like he hesitates, like they talked about. I won't hesitate, and the other one's like I won't hesitate. But realistically, I feel like they're based on how the situation played out. There's no reason that Neil shouldn't have got Hannah there. Hannah wasn't looking at him. Neil was looking at Hannah. So
Yeah.
at that point, should happen. But so to me, he hesitates slightly. I don't know why. Maybe he was just done. I don't know.
I mean, it is just completely plausible that Hannah just ups the blicky and just guns
Yeah,
Neil
it's
down.
possible. It's certainly possible. Like I said, the way it felt to me was that Neil hesitated, but he might not have, and it just in the movie Hannah just wins, which leads into slightly what I realized is I was rooting for Neil, not rooting for Hannah as much. Not rooting for Hannah, but like I wanted Neil to to get away and live on.
It's interesting too because it seems as we watch more movies and we talk about it, it seems like the way that you want a resolution to end seems to be more positive for whatever character you're following than negative. Not that anybody wants a negative ending, but you know what I mean. Like you
I don't know
want
why that fully is the case.
a happy, rounded ending. Oh, I think it's the part of your it's part of your human condition. You always want to see the best in. You want to see the best things happen to people. You don't want to see the worst things happen to people. So I think that just is shown through movies are an escape from reality. So, that's part of your person, in what you see in the movies and how you want them to be resolved. Now, whether or not you can accept the ending is a different story.
I mean, I accept it. Like, I didn't. Let's see here. The way that the movie played out, I didn't see both of them making it out. Or
Fair.
it, I guess they could have both made it out, but I thought if Hannah made it out, his life would have gone to shit. Which I guess it kind of does anyway. But like, basically, I thought either Neil goes out fighting. I didn't think they would have gone out fighting like that. I thought if they went out fighting, it would have been on the street,
They
like at the heist.
Yeah.
I didn't think he would have effectively gotten away, and then had to re-engage into a gunfight. But so I thought it would have to either go that way or Neil gets away, and that drives fucking Hannah insane that he couldn't catch him, and he just goes off the deep end that way. So maybe doesn't like straight up die, but is lost as a person effectively. That's how I thought the movie would have to go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
based on how the movie played out.
Yeah,
like was playing out, I should say.
I mean, that's an astute assumption. I don't know. I don't have a problem with how the movie ends. I think I mean,
listen, I didn't have a problem with it. I was just rooting more for Neil than I was for Hannah.
I think the conflict resolution is interesting because I mean, even Neil says while he's dying, he's like, "Well, I was never gonna go. Like, I was never gonna go back. I was never gonna go back to prison. That was never gonna happen." So like you get your conflict resolution between the two of them. Like I said, I think the theme of the movie is that they're just the same person. Looking at how they handle things. They're just the same person. It's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, what do you think of it overall?
Overall, I liked it. I liked it enough. I didn't think so. When leading into this movie, you talked about it being one of the greatest heist movies of all time, and
well, okay, let me walk that back a little bit. I thought about it since we've watched the movie and I do think it is a good heist movie. I don't think it's the greatest heist movie of all time. I think the best heist movie of all time is Point Break. I think it's the most about the heists and like the story behind the heists, and I think I enjoy it more. Like it's more of an enjoyable watch, whereas this movie's more serious. So.
Which I have seen Point Break. It's been a very long time. Don't fully remember, like offhand, the movie.
We'll watch Point Break in our own time at some point. Yeah. Now that I know that you've seen it. But.
I then thought of heist movies that I liked more. Now, I really enjoyed The Town. Now, I haven't seen The Town in probably close to 15 years. But I remember at the time extremely enjoying, like, I really enjoyed that movie.
Well, that's interesting because next week we're going to watch The Town. It's not because you haven't seen it in a long time. We've got a special surprise for next week. I think we're going to let you guys marinate on that one. We'll see what happens when we come back. But no, I'm excited for the town. It's been a while since I've seen it as well. So
But so going off of that, I liked Heat. I thought it was a good movie. It wasn't great. It was. Did we do rankings for the other movies like out of 10? Like, do I do like 7 out of 10 or whatever?
I don't know. I don't think we did, but we can start that. I mean, we can
I
literally
think
do
I think that would be
whatever
something
we
good
want.
for us. Off the cuff, I'm going. I'm going to start all the way at the beginning for us. So I'm going to get the two we missed.
Okay, good.
So Bad Boys on a fun scale, Bad Boys is like an 8 out of 10. On
Okay.
straight up movie scale, I'll go 7 out of 10.
Okay. Okay.
Like I thought Bad Boys was a good time. It is what it is. Like that movie is that. Like it was fine. It didn't. I don't feel like it excelled at being like the buddy cop type movie. I don't think it failed in any way. It was just it was what it is.
It's fair.
Scarface. This one's gonna sound brutal. 6 out of 10. Only potentially due to the hype. I think Scarface is an okay movie. The hype around Scarface to me of being like that big of a fucking movie, it was okay to me. I was
I definitely thought you would have been like Scarface is like a 3 out of 10.
I'm
Like
gonna
would
be reasonable with it, or
okay,
try to
so
be.
would you watch it again? Like would you
Uh,
sit down and
okay,
watch all of Scarface again?
no,
Okay.
I wouldn't. Okay, I wouldn't seek out Scarface. If you were sitting out here watching Scarface,
Like if I
I
was like,
may sit here and just keep watching it. But I'm not. I'm not gonna be like, you gotta turn this shit off.
well, yeah, of course not.
But
wouldn't expect that from you, but I just mean like if I if I
I'm
was
never
sitting
gonna
out
seek
here,
it out and watch it again. I
okay,
don't foresee that happening.
okay,
Where I mean, I don't foresee me rewatching Heat again. But I would watch it if it was on. Like, if it was on and you were watching it. If I was flipping through the TV and I saw Heat, I'd probably keep flipping to see if I found anything better. If I didn't, maybe I'd put Heat back on.
okay.
But it would definitely not like catch my like if I'm flipping through and I saw Top Gun, I'm just gonna stop at Top Gun. I'm not gonna keep looking.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, so then, what do you rank Heat?
Uh, See now this affects my scale. Okay, I'm lowering Scarface down to a 5. Um, and I'm gonna put Heat at a 7, and actually, Bad Boys is getting its own 8. It's gonna get the funness of 8.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. There's your movie rankings so far. I'm gonna have to make a leaderboard and everything.
Yeah. Now, I am curious. So, I'm gonna watch The Town, which I think I liked more as a heist movie, but I haven't seen it in a long time, and I'm very curious to see how it holds up for me, and how I'm gonna absolutely contradict myself in things that I like in movies and things that it's not gonna have. It's gonna be so great.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be a great episode. But well, I think we done did the thing, buddy. I think this is a successful third episode.
Yep, I think it is.
Anything you want to tack on to the end here? I guess before we sign off.
Uh, Loose ends make my ass itch.
Loose ends make my ass itch.
Loose. Yeah, that's. There you go. There you go. Loose ends make my ass itch. Well, make sure to watch The Town before, or you listen to our next episode, so you can follow along with what we're going on. And like I said, be excited for the surprise next week. I'm very excited for it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be, I think, a 10 out of 10 thing for the show. It's gonna be so much fun. So outside of that,
Actually, one slight
oh
little tidbit at the end. Actually, we are gonna start behind the scenes our long form content.
oh we that yeah, a little bit of housekeeping. Yes, our long form content going forward. So Nate watches a lot of television shows. I do not. I watch a ton of movies. Don't watch a lot of television. So our long form content is going to be we're gonna start watching Sons of Anarchy this week. And so every couple of episodes, we'll probably have an episode that is more going to be just dedicated to talking. I think we settled on when we finish a season of the show.
Yeah, we're gonna try to
we'll revise and we'll go back.
We'll do either a season. We may do half a season if we realize after the first one this is too much shit to talk about in one episode.
Yeah,
a whole season of a show. So we'll play it by ear, but we're gonna start watching Sons of Anarchy in our own time in the background. It's not gonna affect our weekly going forwards, which we're gonna be back to doing. Of our movies, but we're just gonna start doing that in the background on our own time, and that'll be happening. So we're gonna watch Sons of Anarchy, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. We've watched a couple of TV shows since we came up with the idea for the podcast. We were in our first episode. We were in the middle of recording, or we were in the middle of watching
deep in the middle of watching The Walking Dead.
Yeah,
which we had seen most of. We both had stopped before the end.
Yeah.
So the end bits were new, but which was interesting going back and watch. Then we watched Severance.
Yeah, we watched all Severance, which was very good.
We also actually before we watched Severance, we watched what was the Stallone show called? Tulsa King.
Yeah, we watched Tulsa.
We watched Tulsa King, and then we watched Landman.
And we watched Landman, yeah.
Which Landman was great. Tulsa King was all right for what it was. It was kind of funny. It was Stallone being
very
Stallone.
Yeah.
Landman was great. I actually really enjoyed Landman. I'm excited for season 2.
Yeah, so I'm excited to start a television program, and report back on what I think about it. It'll be fun to let Nate host an episode every now and again, and be kind of he'll get to do my job and see how difficult this is.
And you guys will get to see how bad I am at running shit, and my brain just goes all scatterbrained and hard to keep things straight up there sometimes.
You never know. It'll add a little bit of flavor to your episodes of the show. They'll be a little bit more wonky than mine. But yeah, I think that'll be
it. I think that's the last bit of housekeeping that we need to do. So
I think that's it. Well, this is Unpopped signing off. This is Mitchell signing off.
Yep, follow us on all platforms, Spotify, YouTube. I think that's about where we are.
Make sure you smash that like and subscribe button.
Yep, and make sure you get the comments going. That really gets our interactions up.
You gotta get your interactions up.
Gotta feed the algorithm, guys.
As always, for everyone who listens, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.